It's the rise and the fall of Miss New Zealand.
Should I name my favourite Miss New Zealand? I wonder if you can guess. It's probably Lorraine Downes.
She was in my era, of course. I was thinking about modelling at that stage, and she was everything that she wanted to be.
I judged the year that Lorraine won, and she stood out.
I mean, she was iconic.
A really lovely lady. You know, she's a representative of New Zealand that we can all be proud of.
She had everything going for her, and I think the most beautiful part was that she was quite unaware of how beautiful she was.
Mount Maunganui was like a second home to me because my family used to spend 3 weeks every year at the Mount. And there was 2 competitions back in the 80s. There was the Miss New Zealand and the Miss Universe New Zealand. I wanted to go to Australia. So as a contestant of the Miss Universe New Zealand, you received $500. So for me, that was going to be my airfare to Australia. So I entered that competition really as a progression of my modelling career.
Lorraine was sent to Miss Universe 1983 with a little knapsack and 2 little cocktail frocks.
My family and my closest friends came to the airport. I had not been out of New Zealand, and there I was flying all the way to St. Louis, Missouri on my own. And I remember just feeling absolutely petrified. And I hopped on the plane. I was crying. I think I cried the whole 12 hours to LA. Miss South Africa, who was my roommate, I always thought that she would win or would definitely be in the top 5.
I think she had such a natural type of beauty. It wasn't the plastic, phony pageant contestant that sometimes we see coming to Miss Universe.
Hello everyone, I'm Lorraine Downes and I'm happy to wish you greetings from New Zealand.
Leading up to that final night, every night there was a function, and one of the functions, maybe 2 weeks before the big night, was a sit-down dinner, and I was seated next to Miss Universe's chaperone. And I just thought, oh, this is interesting. And it was great because I was able to have this wonderful conversation with her. Now, why was she seated next to me? Who knows? What we were very aware of was the media and the newspapers and who was making it into the newspapers. And I remember Julie, Miss USA, she was always in the papers. And so that was sort of, and I remember I did get in the paper twice. I had one goal. It was to get into the final 12. And so I just, I remember when they called my name and I was the first one to be called. And I just thought, oh my gosh, New Zealand is going to be so proud.
And the first name on the list is Miss New Zealand.
Lorraine just kind of snuck in there. I mean, the more you saw her, she had the type of personality that the more you saw her on stage, the more you liked her. The judges probably saw that also and saw that she would make a good Miss Universe.
Miss New Zealand, have you enjoyed your visit to St. Louis?
Oh, it's been wonderful. It's one that I'm never going to forget. And the best thing of my visit has been the people of St. Louis. They've been so friendly and made everyone feel welcome. Thank you.
Nicely put. Thank you.
Then we have this New Zealand girl coming through, this beach girl, and there's a freshness to Lorraine that sort of represented the South Pacific, something that was unseen, and I think the judges just simply fell in love with her.
I think in my top 5, Miss Switzerland, she was just so beautiful.
Lorraine had personality, which I felt Miss Switzerland did not.
And in my head, I was thinking, they're going to be back home in New Zealand going, we can't believe she's in the final 5.
We had this vavavoom Miss America, Miss United States standing beside her, and all expectation was that she was going to win. And even Lorraine showed that in her expression, this disbelief. We all had that. Of course, we felt she deserved it, but for her to actually win, wow.
Miss New Zealand is Miss Universe.
Do recall my boss walking in and going, oh my God, darling, she's won.
New Zealand won Miss Universe. That's like, what?
My mind was blown. She was the epitome of grace and beauty. She held that stage so well, and she was all things glittery and sparkly in my world.
Huge deal when she won. We were all watching then.
I was just, like, my heart was just, it was absolutely amazing.
It was about time. It was about time New Zealand showed their flag.
Hey, we're on the world stage. That's New Zealand. I was literally beside myself, crying with pride and screaming. I'm sure the neighbors wondered what was going on.
She had a very likable factor, which went in her favor. I mean, you really, really wanted her to win.
It was sort of like a surreal experience because all of a sudden I was being crowned and I was just going through, it felt like I was just going through the motions. So watching it afterwards, it just took me back to that moment straight away. When you look at the footage of me walking up the stairs and sitting in the chair, and then I just get bombarded by all the other girls, the contestants.
I actually find that footage quite disturbing. When you're watching Lorraine, you can actually see it sinking in that she's won. And she was so young.
It was a lot. It was scary. I was escorted off the stage to a small room, and somehow they had found my parents who were in the audience, an audience of 16,000 people. How they found them, I'll never know. But Mum and Dad were there, and I remember the door was closed, and I just remember just falling into their arms, sobbing and saying, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. I'm not the most beautiful girl in the world. They just sat down with me and they just said, Lorraine, they said, you've been given this opportunity. What a wonderful opportunity you've been given. You've got to go and try this. And if in 6 months' time you're not happy, we'll get you home. And of course, they knew I was going to be all right. They knew I was going to be able to do it. And I was just so grateful that they were there. So it's always been the thing that happens to Miss Universe. The next morning, she gets to meet the press.
The new Miss Universe enjoyed breakfast in bed this morning amid cameras and photographers. Miss Downes told reporters when she made it to the final 5, she was enjoying herself so much that she couldn't believe it when she won the title.
It just would have been really lovely to have had someone close, to give me some support, someone that I knew and loved. So those first few months were very, very challenging. I got really homesick. As I grew in confidence, I started to really enjoy the work that I was doing, and it just got better and better as the year went through. So during the year, I did get to meet some amazing people, and one of them was Ronald Reagan. We got maybe, I'm going to say, 5 minutes in the Oval Office. And I just remember being really so nervous. You know, here I was standing in the Oval Office with Ronald Reagan. I started that year, and it was a year that was just full of so much growth for me. But it was also a year where I was contracted, I was doing a job, and I had no control over my life whatsoever. A year was long enough. So when the year came to an end, I was so ready to crown the new Miss Universe and to resume my life and to do the things that I wanted to do in my life.
It's been such an intense year that any free time that I got, I just wanted to be by myself. So there really wasn't been any time for any personal life, boyfriends included.
So when she walked in and she handed over the crown a full year after the original contest, I was always amazed at how much she had matured. She just became this incredibly sophisticated woman.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Universe 1983, Lorraine Downes.
She looks like she's walking on the stage of the Academy Awards.
We have king and queen here in Sweden, so for me, she looked like our queen.
I think Lorraine ended her reign at Miss Universe that night with so powerful.
I thought she was such a smashing person. She was glowing, and she was so professional. I really got so impressed with her, and I thought she was such a beautiful role model for the Miss Universe Incorporated and for the role as Miss Universe.
She has a beautiful soul.
She held herself so well.
very, very proud of Lorraine, and I'm very proud of our friendship.
I finally got to photograph Lorraine when she was turning 30, and she wanted to get back into modelling. She had very short bleached hair and very rock and roll, very cool and very beautiful, and everyone in New Zealand loved seeing her back.
Has she changed? No. Does she look even better now? Of course. The fluff is gone.
My hair, I mean, I just cringe when I look at photographs of me, especially when I won, and my hair, I had teased it up so much. I don't know what I was thinking. Just a little bit more.
Hair and makeup for beauty contests. Less is more? I don't think so.
Back then, we all did our own hair and makeup.
Back then, it was as much as you can possibly pack on. Foundation, blusher, lipstick, eyes, hair.
The pink and the purple makeup and the hot rolled hair and the teasing. We can never go back there. We can't.
We love it. I love it. I mean, you go to a retro party now, everyone wants 80s. Everyone wants those pineapple earrings and the big hair.
I had a little bit of a mishap before I went in for Miss New Zealand. I had a perm on bleached hair, which is a no-no, was in those days, and quite a section of my hair vanished.
They would just make us, like a 19-year-old girl, transform us into these older women. Oh my God, she had the big blow-dried hair like I had. And when I look at the pictures, it's so heavy, so caked on, which is so 80s. It's just what we did. And, big heavy eyes and big contoured cheeks.
I actually would like to see it go back to the glamorous days of the 80s. It was fully glamorous. Everything was glamorous in the 80s. It was just, everything was about big, beautiful and bolshy.
Big hair and that. We had to do everything ourselves. When I look back now at the hair,
We didn't have to do our hair.
There's no way I would have my hair that big.
I have never seen their hair that big. I don't know what they used in that hair. It must have been concrete or something.
The makeup of the 80s is definitely a look that I want it to be left in the 80s.
Can't say that, can we?
It was not a good look.
No.
Was it? It was so hard because I was thrust into this whole new life, this very sophisticated international life. I was doing things that I'd never ever done before. For example, doing interviews with the media, having to give speeches, and I travelled to 25 countries during that year. So the first couple of months, it was just a huge learning curve.
People thinking that Miss New Zealand isn't hard work, that's probably the most frustrating misconception for me. It would be the most challenging experience I've ever been through by far.
We were on show the whole time, so, there wasn't any time to rest.
You're always having to be up and happy, and
it was definitely a full-time job. It kept me very busy, that's for sure.
The questions and the functions I had to go to, that with the diplomats from all sorts of countries, they really did want you to tell them about New Zealand, and you were really promoting the country.
My job as Miss Universe was to represent the Miss Universe Corporation, and I would be travelling to different countries. I would arrive into a country and I would be working for perhaps a brand, a company. I would be going to dinners, I would be meeting people, having photographs taken, doing charity, fundraising, visiting orphanages.
Lorraine was our Lady Di. She was everything. She was our version of royalty.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Miss New Zealand was the closest we probably got to royalty. You had beautiful people like Miss New Zealand on floats that were waving to the crowds, and the crowds were going wild because that was our celebrity status.
I can relate to what the royal family does because my role as Miss Universe was very similar.
I can relate to it. Oh, I think it's tougher for the royals.
They were better than being a princess.
But it's not as criticised like the royals.
No, I know. Oh, listen, you speak like the royals.
The idea that you are crowned the most beautiful girl in the world, to me, that was always a fantasy.
No, I don't think there is such a thing.
I believe there isn't such a thing as the most beautiful woman in the world. I mean, that's ridiculous.
I think it's incorrect. Someone who won in 1980 possibly would never get anywhere even into the finals in 81 or 82.
There can be somebody that really represents that moment in time. And that's what really a beauty queen is.
I had a breakfast with all the judges, and the judges told me that it was my personality that won